privilege to call yourself and it's something that you have to earn.
People who knew Tom before he was fully brainwashed say that he was a sweet and loving person, and he's turned into something.
Jada were 100% Scientologists, period. I have a lawsuit against Jada, and I'm in court right now for the civil restraining order, and I mentioned the Church of Scientology in that for the man. Somebody put a dead dog in a trash bag.
Heard the stories of what happens, and I've seen these kinds of someone to constantly walk behind you and say, you're insane.
Have you ever stopped and wondered how so many celebrities seem to barely age at all? And no, I'm not just talking about plastic surgery either, because some people swear it looks like certain stars are literally reversing time through some mysterious underground treatment. Now listen to this, because the rumors surrounding that alleged liquid get very shady very fast. Here's where the story supposedly connects in a much bigger way. Since the early 2000s, Scientology has allegedly been trying to recruit more black celebrities into its circle. But according to these claims, they were not looking for just anybody. They specifically wanted wealthy, influential entertainers with major public visibility. The idea, some critics say, was to improve the organization's image through celebrity influence and cultural power. And hold up, because this next part is where things start sounding even stranger. Rumors began circulating that Scientology allegedly tried reaching out to Dave Chappelle shortly after he rejected that massive $50 million deal and disappeared to Africa. Some people believe that the moment Dave attempted to distance himself from Hollywood pressure, he suddenly became a target behind the scenes. Now, whether true or not, people have talked for years about the alleged connection between Scientology and Hollywood culture. Certain rumors even claim that celebrity handlers are supposedly trained through Scientology-related methods to keep stars under control. Then there was an old website called ChappelleTheory.com that pushed the story even further. The site claimed there was a hidden group of powerful black Hollywood figures known as the Dark Crusaders. According to those allegations, the group supposedly pressured Dave Chappelle to fall in line with the system around him. And girl, the rumors got even darker from there. Some claims suggested threats were allegedly made against Dave's family if he refused to cooperate with certain industry expectations. But the story did not stop once Dave returned from Africa. When Chappelle later appeared on Oprah to explain why he walked away from everything, he described some deeply unsettling experiences. Dave claimed there were people allegedly sent to convince him he was mentally unstable after leaving Hollywood. He also said certain individuals even tried pushing antipsychotic medication on him during that period, which only fueled more speculation around what was really happening behind the scenes.
I had a schedule, and I bounced. And I didn't tell anybody where I was going. The whole time, they're trying to convince me I'm insane. They were trying to get me to take psychotic medication. Yeah. Like I'm sitting around, I was stressed out, but the people that were telling me I was insane, I believe that they knew what was going on. So, this was troublesome.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not taking this medicine, man, because I know these people be trying to control you or maybe discredit you. I was afraid,
But you were stressed out. That's
why.
There's
no question. But it's very stressful for someone to constantly walk behind you and say.
Then, Dave took the story even further by claiming that once he refused to take the medication, the situation allegedly became psychological. He suggested people were trying to manipulate him mentally through strange tactics designed to make him question his own sanity. And listen to this. According to Dave, those alleged mind games were meant to slowly break him down emotionally and mentally over time.
How about this? I showed the work the first week, and where my office used to be, they built a wall there.
Why?
I didn't know why. But it came out later that they were like, well, they said you wanted it. I don't want to be walled up at the office. I like hang.
Now listen to this. This is where it gets really dark. What they did to Dave, a lot of people believe those tactics were pulled straight out of Scientology's own playbook. See, Scientology has something known as fair game. And hold up, this isn't just a catchy phrase. It's an official policy written by their founder, L. Ron Hubbard, back in the 1960s. Basically, once you're labeled an enemy, all the normal rules are gone. Hubbard reportedly stated that people declared fair game can be tricked, sued, lied to, or destroyed. And he even went further, saying you can strip them of property or harm them by any means necessary. And get this, he also wrote that anyone who attacks Scientology should be utterly ruined.
You are deemed an enemy of the Church of Scientology. They're going to use any mean possible to come after you. It's nasty stuff.
What do they call that again? They have a word for it.
Fair game.
Fair game. And can you explain what that is?
Fair game is, like I said, it was the actual written policy of anybody who's been deemed an enemy of the Church of Scientology. You use any tactics possible to come after them. They are fair game.
Wow. It's like the cops too. I mean, you've chatted about the LAPD.
You know, not long ago, the Hollywood Division Police Station on Wilcox, they used to have a Scientology kiosk inside of it.
Wow, really?
And there are Hollywood cops who are in the Church of Scientology.
Now, officially, they retired the term fair game in the late 1960s. But listen to this. Whistleblowers say the behavior behind it never actually stopped. They just dropped the label and kept the same playbook. In fact, Scientology reportedly argued as late as 1985 that targeting enemies is a core religious practice protected under the Constitution. So hold up, what does all of this actually look like in real life? One of their most talked about methods is something called a noisy investigation. Here's how it goes down. They bring in private investigators to contact your friends, neighbors, coworkers, anyone in your circle and tell them you're being investigated for crimes. Not because they're actually chasing real evidence. The entire goal is to damage your reputation and make everyone around you see you as a criminal. And this isn't rare. They've been accused of doing it to journalists, former members, and anyone who speaks out. And here's where it starts tying back into Hollywood. A lot of people believe some of the handlers and fixers in the entertainment world were trained in these exact methods. Scientology has had deep roots in Hollywood for decades. They even built a celebrity center and have reportedly worked with major names like Tom Cruise and Jerry Seinfeld. And allegedly, these so-called fair game tactics didn't stay contained inside the church. They spilled beyond it and into the wider industry. Remember celebrity bodyguard Big Homie CC? He claimed Diddy didn't invent those alleged blackmail-style tactics on his own. Instead, he allegedly picked them up directly from his Scientologist connections in Hollywood.
Them accusing Diddy of having cameras in his house so he can record celebrities and politicians and use it as blackmail.
I firmly believe that's true because in that sector of people, a lot of them practice Scientology. And Scientology, that was their thing. They would get people in compromising positions. They'll hold that footage over their head and get them to agree to things. I think he one of them Scientology people, bro. Because that's probably where he got that from. A lot of powerful guys operate like that. So the things I'm seeing with him, it all makes sense.
And then Jaguar Wright stepped in as well, making similar claims and alleging that there is a deeper connection between Scientology and this rumored secret network of powerful Hollywood elites.
As Leah Remini, she's a little more credible. But then again, she might have been able to pull some of their cards because a lot of them motherfuckers is involved in that Scientology bullshit too. Right into the corner where Biggie was killed. I was just there. Literally. And that building, it's this big, gaudy, Masonic looking thing. You know, it's all right. Architecturally wise, but what gets really interesting about it is when the sun goes down, they turn the lights on, blood red, pure blood red. The whole building glows, pure blood red. I don't know, man. It just feels disturbing to me. You put this thing up that looks like some kind of Masonic monument where Biggie Smalls was shot to death. And at night, you thought that the color should be blood red.
You spoke about Scientology.
Yeah.
Does that have to do with anything with the Illuminati, or is that just separate entity?
They're separate entities, but they work in tandem.
Right.
They spy on each other's people for each other. You know, if they don't want to make it look like they're stalking one of their, defectees, They'll ask somebody from TMZ to do it for them. Oops, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that out loud, allegedly. Harvey. They farm it out, make it seem like it's just paparazzi stuff when they're actually doing investigation. And Scientologists, they're relentless. A lot of people farm out their gaslighting work to them for a profit. That's LA.
So when someone like Dave Chappelle starts acting out, refusing to play the game, walking away from $50 million, they already know exactly how to pressure him, isolate him, and paint him as unstable. That's the same playbook they run on anyone who steps outside the lines. But listen, this is where it gets even stranger when you compare what Scientology says it believes versus what it actually does. See, Scientology has built this public image of being completely against psychiatry and strongly opposed to medication. They even run a museum in LA called Psychiatry and Industry of Death Museum, which is funded by the church itself. They've been accused of blaming psychiatrists for everything from World War I all the way to 9/11, and they reportedly make members sign agreements refusing psychiatric treatment under any circumstances. And remember Tom Cruise's infamous public rant against medication? He went on to criticize Brooke Shields for using antidepressants to treat postpartum depression.
It's a problem. You don't know the history of psychiatry. I do. All it does is mask the problem, Matt. And if you understand the history of it, it masks the problem. That's what it does. That's all it does. You're not getting to the reason why. There is no such thing as a chemical imbalance.
So postpartum depression to you is
Matt,
kind of a little psychological gobbledygook?
No, I did not say that.
I'm just asking, what would you call it?
Matt, that is the post. Now you're talking about two different things.
But that's what she went on the antidepressant for.
But what happens, the antidepressant, all it does is mask the problem. There's ways of vitamins and through exercise and various things. I'm not saying that that isn't.
Now, can we talk for a second about how reckless that actually comes off? Postpartum depression is a serious, sometimes life-threatening medical condition that impacts millions of new mothers worldwide. And by downplaying antidepressants, Tom was widely criticized for sending a dangerous message that could push vulnerable mothers away from treatment. But here's where the contradiction starts to get even louder. On the surface, Scientology presents itself as strongly anti-medication and opposed to mainstream mental health treatment. But here's the part people don't really break down enough. Dave Chappelle himself has said that during everything he went through, there were attempts to push him toward antipsychotic medication he didn't believe he needed. And according to him, he wasn't mentally unstable or crazy in the way people tried to frame it. So just sit with that for a second. An organization that publicly argues mental illness is spiritual and medication is harmful has allegedly been linked in stories and claims to pushing psychiatric drugs on someone like Dave Chappelle. Why would that even happen? Because as critics argue, it can create dependency and shift how a person is perceived. It can make them look unstable in the public eye, and it can be used to undermine their credibility if people start believing there are mental health concerns. So the argument becomes less about being anti-medication in principle, and more about controlling what kind of treatment someone is allowed to trust. And that's a very different conversation. Now, stepping into the other side of this, you also hear online speculation about how certain high-profile figures in and around that world seem to age unusually slowly. Take Tom Cruise, for example. He's in his 60s, yet still maintains a very youthful public appearance. And then you've got people online pointing to figures like Jada Pinkett Smith, who has been loosely linked to Scientology discussions over the years, with some saying she appears younger than her age. She's approaching 60, yet still presents a very youthful image in the public eye. And of course, some people even bring up Beyoncé in these conversations, pointing to how consistent her appearance has seemed over decades. But it's important to separate observation from speculation here, because a lot of this is internet commentary, not verified fact. There are also claims floating around that the Church of Scientology has access to certain experimental or unconventional practices, not the psychiatric medications they publicly criticize, but other types of alleged compounds, things described online as experimental or anti-aging related, substances that people claim are not part of mainstream medical approval processes. And if you've seen the film The Substance with Demi Moore, you can see why people make those comparisons. Some online theories even suggest that the movie reflects exaggerated exaggerated ideas inspired by real-world beauty and aging obsessions in Hollywood. But again, this is all framed in rumor and interpretation, not confirmed reality.
Substance is real. How do you explain that Lindsay Lohan looked like this before and now she transformed into this? What do you say about Madonna? She completely became a different person. Christina Aguilera exploded the news. And what do you say about Adele? It speaks for itself.
This doctor over here reveals what the substance is, so please listen very carefully before they delete this video.
Most people, especially young people, probably don't realize that they're walking around right now at about 55%, maybe 60% of their true state of normal. There is a nutrient, amino acid, a substrate, a compound, an element missing from their body that if they knew what it was, would make the difference between them being an average person and being a...
The Church of Scientology has significant financial resources, and it is widely known for closely supporting its high-profile celebrity members. Is it simply plastic surgery, elite dermatology, and expensive skincare routines at work? That is certainly one possibility. But when you look at how secretive the organization is about its upper-level teachings and how tightly it manages members' lives, it's easy to see why speculation fills in the gaps. Now listen, this is where things get even darker in tone. I can't go too deep into unverified claims, but there have been discussions online about special cosmetic procedures like advanced microneedling treatments that celebrities allegedly use to maintain a youthful appearance. Sandra Bullock, for example, has never publicly confirmed any connection to Scientology, and it's not established that she is a member. However, rumors from the 2000s suggested the church may have once tried to recruit her in connection with Tom Cruise's personal life at the time. So what you end up with is a narrative split into two very different sides. On one side, there's a public stance that strongly rejects medication and frames psychiatry as harmful or misleading. On the other side, there are allegations and speculation that contradict that image in various ways. And that contrast is exactly what keeps people questioning what's really going on behind closed doors. But I want to be clear here. Most of what circulates in this space is a mix of rumor, interpretation, and internet storytelling, not verified fact. So the real question becomes less about conspiracy and more about perception versus evidence. And I'll leave that with you. How much of this do you think is coincidence, and how much is just narrative building around secrecy and fame?